Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and it's time to look ahead to Week 8 in the NFL, see if there's some early values on the lines. Apocalypse is past us, and everybody's playing this week. We've got a full slate of games. Should be good times. It's always good times when Sam Hoppen and Pat Fitzmaurice join me here on the show. Gentlemen, let's just jump right into it because we got a ton of games to go through today. And don't forget, everybody, if you want a chance to win that Robert Tonyan jersey, make sure you drop a comment below. Make sure you subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel, and that's all you got to do to win. Again, we're always giving away free stuff here. We love you people, so go win this jersey. Go give it to Pat Fitzmaurice. I'm telling you, Christmas present, such a beautiful thing. I'll pay for the shipping myself. I will do it. And don't forget to click that little bell till it goes ding for notifications so you know if you are the big winner as well. We got to start with Thursday Night Football. Short week here underway for the Buffalo Bills, which is a good thing. They don't have time to dwell on the loss to the New England Patriots. Yeah, that's right. I said it. A loss to the New England Patriots. The number for this game is 42.5. So far, it looks like Buffalo is 7-point favorites, no doubt there. That number you can get at DK. The over-under right now at FanDuel. If you like Tampa for the upset, it's plus 315 on the money line. Pat, let's start with you with this one. Does Buffalo just kind of put their head down, get back to work, and beat up on a Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that, like, frankly, watching Baker Mayfield throw completely into double coverage all day long is a very dangerous sign of things to come if that continues?
Yeah, and Baker Mayfield talked about, big comeback after their disappointing performance against the Lions in Week 6, and then maybe even a more disappointing performance against a worst opponent, the Falcons, in Week 7. But I actually do lean towards the Buccaneers here. Like, going into that loss to the Falcons, the Buccaneers were 17th in the Massey Peabody power ratings and 15th in total DVOA. So this is not a terrible team. Granted, they had a really disappointing performance against the Falcons, but this Bills offense has struggled to put points on the board 2 straight weeks against the Giants and against your Patriots, Joe. So, I don't want to lay a touchdown with the Bills to a decent team, even at home. They could come in and blow out the Buccaneers, blow their doors off. But man, I'll take the touchdown here.
All right, taking the touchdown. Sam, when you look at this line, anything feel off to you? Any early value you might want to jump on?
I agree with Fitz here. I think with the lower total and the full 7.5 points you can get with Tampa Bay, I'd be taking that. I'm never looking for a reason to back Baker Mayfield, but the Bills defense has struggled lately. Last week against the Patriots, they allowed their highest success rate and highest EPA per play in a game against a struggling New England offense. The Buffalo pass rush has been good. We've seen them be able to get to the quarterback even without blitzing, but Tampa Bay right now is the only team to have had the same 5 starting players at O-line for every single snap this season. So I think that continuity will help them and will be able to keep them within a touchdown on Thursday night.
The Los Angeles Rams are coming off a loss at home to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They're going to travel to the Cowboys, coming fresh off their bye. The number for this one is 45. That feels about right. Dallas, 6.5-point favorites. All these numbers coming from FanDuel. Plus 240 on the money line here for the Rams in the potential upset. Sam, the Cowboys have been a bit of an enigma. They got their W. They eked one out there against the Chargers, much to the chagrin of that lady in the stands. But can they keep it rolling here and get 2 in a row? Do you think the 6.5 is giving the Cowboys too much credit?
I don't think it's giving them too much credit. I made this Dallas by 6 points, so I think this number is pretty close to spot on. I don't see a ton of value right now. The Rams have cooled off a bit from their hot start. They don't have a game with an offensive success rate over 50% since that week 1 game against the Seahawks. So I think the Rams are starting to become what people expected heading into the season. They're staying competitive in games, but they just don't have the full firepower on offense and the defense to be able to keep them in games. So I think this number's spot on right now. Don't see a ton of value, but do think Dallas comes away with the win.
Pat, the 6.5 to me is giving the Cowboys just a hair too much credit. And I know the Rams struggled a little bit, last game against Pittsburgh there. Maybe a bit of a wake-up call. Darrell Henderson, Royce Freeman, we talked about on the waiver wire show and Fantasy Pros, picking up the slack in that backfield. That's had a ton of injuries. With a little bit more practice time and cohesion, can the Rams get back on track and cover the 6.5?
Yeah, I feel sort of pulled back and forth between something you just said, Joe, and something Sam just said. It does feel like it's giving the Cowboys too much credit to go up to 6.5 in this game. But Sam made the point that the Rams have maybe reverted to being the team that we thought they were going to be coming into the season. The Rams are sort of in the class of the Arizona Cardinals in that category. Teams that the first 3 weeks of the season we were surprised at how plucky they were and how competitive they were. And maybe in the 3 or 4 weeks since then, they have become more of the tomato can that we thought they were going to be early in the season. So, I'm kind of torn here. I don't see any value in this. I'm probably just going to stay away.
I'm a little bit on the Rams side right now. I think the 6.5 is really interesting. I don't want to watch this one, though, because Cowboys are a very public team. If people start betting them up a little bit, maybe this number gets a little bit more. And if it gets a little higher, then I'm really in on the Rams. I think the Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua thing that combination could cause some problems there potentially for the Cowboys. Remember, Travion Diggs out for the year. That's been a big loss. It's really showed itself in a lot of these games. Gilmore, not quite the same player he was a few years ago. The Houston Texans, 3-3. They're coming off a bye. So are the Carolina Panthers, still winless on the season. Things are not going well for the Panthers so far this year. Right now, the Houston Texans are 3-point favorites in this game. They are 155 on the money line. Those numbers at DraftKings. The total is 41.5. Fitzy, I jumped on this one already, and I jumped on the Houston side at the -3. I am really liking the culture shift, the change, the positivity that's going on there. This is the battle of the number 1 and 2 quarterback taken in the draft. I know a lot of people are going to write and talk about that this week. But only one of those two quarterbacks has looked really comfortable in the NFL so far. And that guy is CJ Stroud, and he plays for the Texans.
Yeah, a lot of good vibes around the Texans right now and how far along they seem to be with their rebuild. And, clearly I think if the Panthers could have a do-over on the NFL draft, they would probably choose CJ Stroud and not Bryce Young. The Texans have clearly been the better team, but if you do look at the Massey Peabody rankings in this, it says that the Texans are about 2.5 points better on a neutral field. This game is going to be a home game for the Panthers, and the Texans are favored by 3. So that suggests maybe there's a little bit of value on the Panthers as a home dog here. So I don't know if I can buy that. I'm with you, Joe. Like the Texans have been surprisingly good this season, but I just don't think there's enough value to bet them as a 3-point dog in Carolina.
All right. Look, I understand home dogs are something we always look for, but Sam, the Carolina Panthers have had real struggles trying to get out of their own way. And the Houston Texans, like the Texans show up there, and they've showed up on the road too, which is something, sometimes these young teams tend to struggle with. It's one thing to play good at home, good football at home. It's another thing to play good football on the road, but the Texans have done that. So what do you think about this line?
I'm with you, Joe. I think the Texans -3 here is an awesome spot. I too took them this morning. The Carolina defense is not great. They're getting a little bit healthier, but the Houston offensive line is getting healthier as well. The Houston offense ranks 6th in passing EPA per play, 4th in explosive pass rate. I don't think Carolina has anyone that's going to be able to slow them down. I think Houston has the coaching advantage as well with DeMeco Ryans making that culture shift like you mentioned, and Bobby Slowick on offense to, putting CJ Stroud in some great opportunities to perform. So I love the Texans here. I think with both of them coming off the bye, they'll have plenty of time to prepare, and Houston comes away with the victory.
Remember, if you're looking for early value, make sure you go make your picks over on the Betting Pros app. Get the best odds you possibly can. And make those picks count for a little bit more with our NFL contest, because we still got that rolling. So Sam and I are in on the Texans already. We want to know what you're in on. We want you to go ahead and place your bets there. And make sure every time you make those picks, you go and join our contest at bettingpros.com/NFL contest. Or if you have the app already, and I know you do, just go to the community tab, click on that bad boy, click on that NFL contest, join. And remember, if you want to get on the fun, you don't even have to be making bets. These are just picks here. So if wagering on sports is still not quite legal in your state, this is a great opportunity to get your feet wet in the market, start testing things out, start learning things, because the winner is going to get a Jackson Smith and Jigba autographed jersey. We're also doing weekly prizes, monthly prizes. Again, make 5 picks a week. That's all you got to do. 100 on the season to be eligible for that big prize, that JSN jersey. We're giving away upgrades to Betting Pros to Fantasy Pros Premium. Also, pieces from our swag, hats, t-shirts, all of that from Betting Pros and Fantasy Pros. So join the NFL contest today at bettingpros.com/NFL contest. Gentlemen, next game, I know this one's going to hit close to you guys. I also bet this one early. I have had enough already of Jordan Love. It's over for me. Christian Watson coming out with that injury at the end of the game. I immediately jumped on Minnesota in this one, plus 1.5. You can even get this, again, that's at minus 115 on FanDuel. I bet the Minnesota Vikings at minus 102 just outright to win this game, because I feel like if they put on a decent show tonight, this number might even shift a little bit, maybe towards the Minnesota side some more. 43.5 is the number. So personal aside, all business here. The Vikings have brought their A game to Green Bay of late in the last few years, Sam. I know they don't have Justin Jefferson, but frankly, right now, my faith in Jordan Love and this Packers offense is really low. So I like Minnie, and I like him right now. What do you think, Sam?
Joe, you and I are simpatico this morning, it seems, because, I mean, first of all, this is the Bummer Bowl. I mean, both of these teams are trending in the wrong direction. Green Bay essentially just gets home field advantage here. Vegas seemingly makes it so that these are some even teams on an even field. But I think the Vikings offense is the best unit here. Green Bay's offense did have one of its better days offensively. It was the first time since week 2 with a positive EPA per play against Denver. But again, they were playing one of the worst defenses in the league and still only managed 17 points. And 7 of those points came off of a tip drill touchdown. So I think Minnesota is able to come into Green Bay, much to my chagrin, and pull away an upset victory.
Looking right now, gentlemen, even this morning, right now on BetMGM, you can get the Minnesota Vikings at plus money, plus 105. The worm is turning, Fitz. What do you say? You want to come with me and Sam, hold hands on the island together?
Oh, I'm so rattled by this heel turn by Sam Hoppen, ripping off the mask to reveal purple face paint. Very disheartening. Yeah, I mean, the Vikings, we're going to see this line undoubtedly move based on how the Vikings play against the 49ers. But a couple of weeks ago in their first game without Justin Jefferson, they did not look very good against a suspect Chicago Bears defense. That was a pretty alarming performance. So there are 2 offenses here I don't really trust. I mean, it's certainly hard to trust the Packers, especially if they're going to be without Christian Watson and their rookie tight end, Luke Musgrave, both of whom left the Broncos game with injuries and whose status is probably very much in doubt for this game. But I just cannot take the Vikings as in a road game unless I'm getting at least a field goal. So it's a stay away for me. I'm not going to blindly bet the Packers in this one. Yeah, I can't have much faith in this team based on what we've seen from this offense. Like you said, that performance against the terrible Broncos defense was most upsetting.
I'm all in the Vikings. This and the Texans, my 2 favorite plays. Like I said, already bet them. You can follow me at bettingpros.com/Joe. Follow them /Fitz/Slam. See what those guys are in on already. But I'm jumping on this bad boy early. Now, one that's tough to get a beat on here. The Battle of New York or New Jersey, depending on how you look at it. The New York Jets are going to travel to their own building to take on the New York Giants. So split home field advantage, however you want to look at this. Technically, it's a Giants home game, so theoretically more Giants fans in the stands, you think? Probably. The Giants are 3-point underdogs in this one. 36.5 is the number. If you like the Giants on the money line, it's plus 136 on DK. That's the best number you can get right now. Fitz, the last 2 weeks, the Giants defense has really woken up. They're getting after the quarterback. A bunch of sacks against Sam Howell last week. I know the Commanders give up a ton of sacks, but Zach Wilson also won sometimes to take some sacks too, holding the ball too long. He has played better of late. This game is a bit of an enigma to me. So I'm going to look to you, Fitz, for a little insight because I don't have a beat on this one yet. But do you see any early value when it comes to Jets-Giants?
Yeah, interesting, Joe. Some of the games that are stayaways for me, you feel very, very strongly about. I feel strongly about this game where it's a stay away from you. I'll take the Jets here. And while the Giants defense has played much better in the last few weeks, the Jets defense is clearly the best unit in this game, far and away. And I don't think the Giants are going to have much success moving the ball against this Jets defense. And I think with Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson helping out Zach Wilson, I think the Jets are going to be able to scratch out enough points to cover in this one. I've already bet it with the Jets. And I'm kind of interested in the under here. This reminds me a little bit of my under bet on the Minnesota Golden Gophers Iowa Hawkeyes game this Saturday, which went off at 30.5 points. I looked at that number and thought, I don't know if these teams are getting to 20, and it comfortably finished under. I think this one might comfortably finish under this very low total. This is going to be not the most aesthetically pleasing game you will ever watch in the NFL. But I think the Jets win a low-scoring battle here and pretty comfortably.
I agree with you on that one, Fitz. The one appealing number to me is the under here, even though it's a low number. Sam, can you buy in on that, or do you have a strong feeling about this game one way or another?
It is hilarious because the first note I have written under my bullet points here is this is like Iowa, Minnesota with this super low total. I agree that the Jets defense here is definitely the best unit. The Giants are expected to get left tackle Andrew Thomas back, which should help a little bit. And I think at this point, I'd probably want Tyrod Taylor to play for the Giants. I think he has a little less variability in his play than Daniel Jones. The Giants have put up two of their best offensive performances from an EPA per play perspective in the past 2 weeks with Tyrod. So it'll be interesting to see what happens at the quarterback position for the Giants. I've gone a little bit of back and forth on this. I think I would take the Jets if it's 3 points or better, but it is, I think, going to be a very, very close game. I'm probably staying away for right now, but nothing really inspires much confidence in these offenses. And
I feel like
a 36-point favorite, you can't not bet the under.
Right. I feel like 36.5. I think now is a good time to jump on that, because I think the more people time to marinate and go through these matchups. The defense, like I said, the defense of the Giants has played very well. Fitz mentioned that the Jets defense is the best unit of all four of these on the field. It feels like an under here. And if this number starts to shrink, then next thing you know, it's going to be a tougher one to make. New England Patriots coming off a big upset of the Buffalo Bills, much to my chagrin. I want a high draft pick. That's all I want. I want them to not screw up taking Marvin Harrison Jr. That's all I want for Christmas. Miami Dolphins are going to host the New England Patriots. The Dolphins are 10.5 point favorites in this one, minus 105 over on FanDuel. 47.5 is the number there as well. For New England to upset, it's plus 410. Sam, I know the Patriots, shocked a lot of people yesterday. I want to say Buffalo was minus 400, I think, favorites in this one. Very heavily favored. Let's just put it to that. New England goes here as an underdog, as they should be here. Miami it didn't have some calls go their way last night, but also didn't make enough plays at the end of the day. So what are your thoughts on Miami, New England? Is this number too big?
I think it is a little too big. I made this Miami by 7.5, and obviously at minus 10, that would indicate that I'm on the New England side of things. When these teams met in week 2, Miami won by a touchdown. They were only favored by 1.5, but this was obviously before their massive offensive explosion against the Broncos. I do think that the under here is probably my strongest lean. New England's defense, I still think is pretty good, and that they have a chance to contain the Miami offense like they did in week 2. Miami's 2 losses this year have come to the Bills and the Eagles, who are 2 of the better teams in the league, and they pretty much handled their business against their weaker opponents. So I'm staying away from this right now, aside from the under. I think this is going to be a game in which both teams might struggle to put up some points.
I feel like, Pat, the danger in this game is trying to take anything out of that first matchup. The first matchup was closer than I think some people realize, so I think that's going to have almost too much of an impact on people's thoughts. Is it creeping into your psyche, too, when you're looking at this line?
Yeah, a little bit, Joe. I'm not going to touch this game. We didn't think the Patriots could beat the Bills outright, and yet they did. So yes, Miami could certainly stomp the gas pedal on this one and beat the Patriots by 3 or 4 touchdowns. Like if they have it hitting on all cylinders offensively. But man, I'm just not interested in laying double-digit points to Bill Belichick team. And I don't want to give Bill Belichick too much credit. The Patriots have been pretty bad for the most part this year, but nor am I interested in betting the Patriots against these Dolphins. So this is just one I'm happy to walk away from.
Fair enough. That makes a lot of sense. I think this, from an individual standpoint, a player prop standpoint, a far more interesting game to wager on than the game itself. However, the next one, this should be interesting. The Tennessee Titans coming off a bye. Most likely, I would say that we're going to have Malik Willis playing quarterback here. Now, this number starts out at 37. I'm in on the under here as Atlanta comes to town. I know Atlanta's 4-3, but they've struggled on offense lately. Desmond Ridder has had his issues here. Bijan Robinson clearly had issues enough that he couldn't even get on the field. The Falcons are -1 point favorites at -110 over on DK. If you like Tennessee for the upset at home, it's +105 over a points bet. Fitz, again, this one reeks of under to me. And it's kind of a tough sell for me to get off of that right now. And I'm also concerned that if I don't jump on this number early, it's going to also shrink on me. What do you think?
I'm with you, Joe. Another game where the total is very low, but the under is crying out because, with Ryan Tannehill, this would be different. I think we'd see another point or two added to the total and another point or two added to the Titans. I think the Titans would probably be 1 or 2 point favorites in this game if Ryan Tannehill were playing. I understand why the Falcons are favored. Like Malik Willis and the Titans offense could have a lot of trouble moving the ball against a really underrated Falcons defense. And the Falcons these are 2 terrific run defenses in this game and 2 offenses that want to run the ball. So, I see this as being a very sluggishly paced game, Joe. Another one where I don't know if we're going to get to 30 points, let alone, 37.5 or whatever it's at right now.
37.5.
I'm with you on the under.
I am there. Sam, you want to come hang out with us here? This feels like 13-10 to me. What do you think?
It very well could be. I mean, if we are going to get Malik Willis, he has struggled in every game that he's played so far. I do like the Falcons side of this. Their defense has been pretty good so far. They're 8th in passing success rate, 7th in explosive pass rate, 1st in rushing EPA per play. So they've been able to hold their opponents pretty well. And I do think, though Desmond Ridder has not been phenomenal this year, he's going to be better than whoever Tennessee trots out at quarterback, assuming it's not Ryan Tannehill. So I lean stronger on the Falcons side of this than the under. But again, to your guys' point, the Titans are 2nd slowest in the league in terms of neutral script pace and 3rd worst in no huddle rate. So there's not going to be a lot of offense in this game, as the under suggests, but like the Falcons in the spot.
The last time the Washington Commanders went to Philadelphia to play the Eagles got a lot closer than I think any of us really expected it to be. Again, another danger, I think, of trying to copy and paste what happened a few weeks ago into what could happen in week 8. Washington is 6.5 point underdogs at home at -110. Always intriguing, but again, they're giving up so many sacks here, averaging over 3.5 per game, Sam. That's a lot. And especially with a young quarterback who sometimes tried to do too much. And there should have been some more picks for Sam Howell yesterday in that game against the Giants that he barely got away with. 44 is the number for this one on the under, 43.5 on DK. And if you like Washington for the upsets, +230 on the money line. The Eagles went out there, handled their business against an incredible offense last night in Miami. I think this was a good confidence builder for the Eagles, who have been scuffling a little bit. Does that confidence travel to Washington, and do they cover the 6.5, Sam?
I think it does. The way that Sam Howell is taking sacks is just it's not sustainable for having that offense. I mean, I know you mentioned that the Giants defense has been playing better, but man, they only got 7 points against them and just could not move the ball. They're taking sacks that are drive killers. And I think Philadelphia, again, has started to show what they really can do offensively. The Washington defense is by no means as good as we expected them coming into the season. They're currently 27th in EPA per play allowed, 28th in early down EPA per play allowed. So I think Philadelphia goes into Washington, handles their business, and covers this 6.5.
All right, Pat, thoughts on this one too? Are you so confident in the Eagles? Maybe you want to go past the 6.5? Do you want to go ahead and just look for some defensive props here and some sacks? Because I know Bogman and I are going to be on that this week for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you've got the team that chased the NFL single-season sack record last year, going up against a quarterback who has been sacked 40 times already this season.
All the Hassan Reddick I can handle, Pat.
Oh, my goodness.
Where is it?
Justin Fields was the most sacked NFL quarterback of 2022 with 55 sacks. I mean, Sam Howell is just 15 behind that. We're not even in the midway point of the season yet.
That's depressing.
Oh, my goodness. So, yeah, the Commanders did manage to take the Eagles to overtime in week 4 before losing 34-31. And Howell played probably his best game in that game. Like, he was really good in the second half in the comeback against the Broncos, but not so great in the first half of that game. He played a pretty complete game against the Eagles. I don't think he's going to be able to do it again. Like, and I want to grab this while it's still under a touchdown. So, yeah, give me the Eagles here.
The New Orleans Saints, with a little extra time after playing on Thursday night, they made it close, but they fell short, unfortunately. They had every opportunity to win that game. So did the Colts this weekend, who came up short as well. Some might say the referee screwed them out on a ball that was probably uncatchable. And they'd be right, in my opinion. The Colts are 1-point favorites at home, so basically this is a pick 'em at this point. 43.5 is the number on DraftKings, plus 102 over on DK for the New Orleans Saints side. The best value on this board right now is the Saints at that plus number. But Fitz, this is another one too where this reeks of range of outcomes, and there could be easily 4 of them where one side blows the other out, or it's a very high-scoring affair or very underwhelming affair. These are the kind of games that scare the hell out of me because they're hard to invest in. So I would just look for the specific player props in this one. I'd stay away from the lines, but do you see something differently here?
I could not agree more with your assessment of that, Joe. And if you took all the 32 NFL teams, I think the 2 that I have bet least successfully this year so far would be the Colts and the Saints. So I'm delighted they're playing each other. I can just completely ignore this game from a betting perspective and focus on the other 15 games on the slate. So yeah, I'll pass. Maybe Sam's got a strong take on this one. I'd love to hear it. I'm just not going to touch this game.
I'm waiting with bated breath. Sam, do you have anything fun here that might crack us out of our doldrums when it comes to these two teams? Because I'm with Fitz. On a weekly basis, I stare at the Saints. I stare at the Colts. Especially the Colts without Anthony Richardson. I find it much harder to gauge that because that explosiveness is gone now. I mean, maybe Jonathan Taylor brings a part of it back, but Richardson brought that explosiveness where I always felt like, ooh, the over's really tempting here because he makes those big plays that all of a sudden put you in positions. Those 3rd and longs, the 3rd and 15 becomes a first down. That stuff doesn't happen necessarily with Gardner Minshew. So what do you think about this contest?
This is a really fascinating one. And I think to your point, Joe, the range of outcomes on this one is incredibly wide. And I think for that reason, I'd be looking to take one of these teams on an alternate spread, minus 5.5, minus 6.5 type thing to capture one of those tail outcomes, because I think the Colts probably have the much wider range of outcomes where they could either play tremendously well like they did against a Browns defense that was playing at historic levels. Obviously, they didn't come away with the win there, but their offense showed up and could do the same thing to this Saints defense that has played pretty well this year. But it's also Gardner Minshew. Like, I'm not going to trust it based off of one game. I think the Colts have the biggest advantage from a coaching perspective. I think Shane Steichen has done phenomenal this year with his decision-making and play calling, but the Saints defense is still really good. So I don't have an early lean on this game right now. I'd be looking at, again, what I said, some of the alt spreads, probably on the Colts side of things.
Yeah, I can understand that. And that approach is the best way to make money off this game. Sam's 100% right. Let's see if we can make some money on the next one here. The Jacksonville Jaguars coming off a big Thursday Night Football victory. Trevor Lawrence, despite that knee injury, Sam, he looked real good running the football all around. So he's got a little extra time to rest, which is a big thing here. Pittsburgh coming off a big win of their own, going into LA. They brought all of their fan base with them, too. Man, did that feel like a home game in Los Angeles for the Steelers. 42 is the number for this one. Pittsburgh is 2.5-point underdogs at home, -110, +118 over on FanDuel. Sam, we started the season off. One of my favorite bets in week 1 was Pittsburgh home dog, and I was all in for them to cover that number. They did not. They got their doors blown off. Is it time that we can start feeling comfortable again with going and attacking the Pittsburgh Steelers as home underdogs being a very dangerous thing and maybe go right to the money line at +118 on this? I want to say yes. I feel like you want to say yes too. Say yes, Sam.
I don't know what Mike Tomlin does in his spare time that he's got this Pittsburgh Steelers team where it is right now. I mean, like, they are winning games that nobody's expecting them to win. The game against Baltimore, the game this past weekend, and I really like the Jaguars here. Pittsburgh, I think, is a team similar to New Orleans where they get success from their defense, but the offense sputters quite a bit. To your point, Jacksonville is going to get 10 days of rest. Trevor Lawrence looks really good, especially running the ball, despite going into that Thursday night game against the Saints with that knee injury. So I think that Jacksonville is going to be able to handle their business here, and Mike Tomlin's voodoo magic will wear off for this one.
Look, it's very sensible of you, Sam. I guess I'm betting here a little bit more with my heart than my head, which probably is going to get me in trouble. But Fitz, they have won 2 huge games, found a way to win, and sometimes that starts to build a little confidence. They do get after the quarterback too. That's a good thing. I know there's a lot of deficits here when you look at the numbers for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year on defense. It's something we're not used to seeing. But let's not pretend like Jacksonville is perfect either on their defensive side of the football. So how do you see this game? Do you see the same value I do on Pittsburgh early?
I do, Joe. And of course, Sam is the hardcore numbers guy, so he's got to go where the numbers lead him. And the numbers will tell you that the Steelers have no business whatsoever being 4-2 right now because they have not been a good team this year. And meanwhile, the Jaguars have won 4 straight. They've averaged 29 points a game during that stretch. But Joe, you asked me yesterday who I thought was going to win the AFC North, and I told you the Steelers.
You did.
And you laughed, and I said
did.
I mean, I have immense faith in Mike Tomlin, maybe way too much faith. I feel like eventually the Steelers are going to start playing better, especially on defense, because I think they have the personnel to be a lot better on defense. And I'm going to take the Steelers as a home dog, and I'm going to hit them on the money line, Joe, as you recommended, against a team that is an upstart in the AFC, up and coming for certain, but I don't think they are yet ready to be one of the elite teams of the AFC. I wouldn't even feel great about taking the Chiefs as a 2.5-point road favorite in Pittsburgh. So why do I want to take the Jaguars at that number? So, I just I can't back Jacksonville here. I'm going to take the money line with the Steelers.
Yeah, me too. I will say this. I did laugh in the morning, but after watching that game, I saw Kenny Pickett changing plays at goal line. I saw him starting to look more comfortable, taking a little bit more charge, being a quarterback, basically, which is something you really didn't see in the first month of the season. It just did not look like it was in a good place. And that's very encouraging. And that AFC North is wide open. We're going to talk about those teams kind of in a row here as we go. Before we get to them, though, a few in between. The Cleveland Browns, Cleveland Browns are going right to them. I forgot. Cleveland Browns, Seattle. Cleveland Browns coming off a huge win. Seattle eked one out against a lesser opponent that really they let hang around way too much in that game. 40.5 is the number for this one. Seattle is 2.5-point favorites at home against Cleveland. Defense does travel, Pat. The Cleveland Browns are +130. Do we see PJ Walker in this game? Are we back to Deshaun Watson? So much intrigue going on with the Cleveland Browns and Myles Garrett, who has just been playing out of his mind so far in the last few weeks. What are your thoughts on this one here? Because this is also a matter of, if you believe enough in that Cleveland defense, then I think that +130 is a tremendous value right here.
Yeah, I'm guessing we do see Deshaun Watson in this one, Joe, since he was cleared to play and return, but they held him out. Kevin Stefanski didn't want to take any chances. So this is a really interesting, a fun, fascinating matchup between two teams that I think are playoff caliber, but maybe not Super Bowl caliber. And I looked at this one pretty hard this morning, trying to find value on either the side, like a side or a total. Just couldn't do it. I think these the line and the total are both spot on, so I'm not going to touch this one.
Sam, I'm going right for the Cleveland Browns. I'm going right for that. Something about the Seahawks, I just don't buy into any toughness there. I don't think that home field advantage is the same thing it was a few years ago. I think that ship has sailed a little bit as well on them. What do you think about this game? Are you seeing it differently?
Yeah, Joe, we are no longer simpatico.
We had a good run, Sam. We had a good run.
I'm with the Seahawks here. Their defense continues to play incredibly well. They have an allowed success rate over 46% in each of their last 4 games. Now, you can look at the quality of the opponents that
I'm glad you're mentioning that.
But
that's what I want to talk about.
What about the Browns' offense inspires you to think that they're any better than those teams that they played? They're one of the worst offenses in the league, despite, regardless of who's at quarterback. And clearly there's something weird going on with this whole Deshaun Watson situation. They were in this competitive game and they were trying to play the long game for Watson's health, but they didn't put him in. So it's just a really weird situation. I think the Seahawks will get DK Metcalf back in this game as well. So I think while the Seahawks are on the better side of the 3 points, I'm taking them in this game.
All right, I'm standing alone here with my Cleveland Browns. They keep finding ways to win, and that's again, defense travels. At the end of the day, I think that's what I'm looking for. Not that, and you're right, Seattle's defense has played well. It's hard for me to believe in, them and the opponents they've played. When you go beat the 49ers offense with your defense, then that perks my interest. Kansas City, man, they looked pretty good. They put up a ton of points. Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes looked unstoppable. 7.5-point road favorites going into Denver. That's the best number you can get right now. 45.5 is the number for this game. Plus 310 for the Broncos on the money line. You could let that one go, folks. The question is, I'm looking at this, Sam. I feel like the 7.5 just isn't enough. What am I not seeing here when it comes to Kansas City and Denver?
I have no idea. I'm back with you again.
All right.
I made Kansas City 10-point favorites, and the Chiefs were 10.5-point favorites when they played just 2 weeks ago on Thursday Night Football, but now they're on the road. They did win by 11, so they barely covered that spread, but it's basically using the same line as that game and switching the 1.5 points for home field advantage over to the Broncos. But the Chiefs defense continues to play incredibly. They haven't allowed more than 21 points in a game this season. The Chiefs offense did sputter a little bit in that second half against the Chargers. And I don't know. I think the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL right now. Their offense is not at its full potential, but man, I just think they're waiting for that game to explode, and this is going to be the one.
Well, Denver's one of the worst pass defenses in the league. Mahomes looked really comfortable this past Sunday, throwing the football again to Travis Kelce all day long. Got a little Mecole Hardman back now, which is pretty fun. But I don't know, Pat. I'm looking at this and I expected in my mind double digits. I'm thinking 10.5. And it's 7.5, and I just want to lock that in now because I'm worried that as more time goes on, this is going to continue to grow. Do you have that same concern?
I bet the Chiefs already, Joe. It is going to grow. I think we will get this. Maybe as a chance to get to double digits. I wouldn't be surprised to see it closing at Chiefs minus 9.5 or so. Look, the Chiefs have beaten the Broncos in 16 straight games. This goes back to before the start of Patrick Mahomes' career, 2015. The Broncos in this rivalry are like Sisyphus trying to push the boulder up the hill. They just can't do it. It just keeps rolling back down over them. So, yeah, give me the Chiefs all day here.
I love a good Sisyphus reference this early in the morning. It's my favorite thing. Next one here, the Baltimore Ravens, just an absolute butt kicking they laid on the Detroit Lions. Detroit was flying high. They got checked. They got checked hard too. 8.5 is the number for this one. Baltimore Ravens are favorites against Arizona. That feels, again, also kind of like a small number. I know the Ravens have been frustrating Pat sometimes. 44 is the over-under. Arizona for the upset plus 330. But I keep coming back at minus 110 at the 8.5. I'm pretty comfortable with that number, especially if this is the new Ravens that we're going to see where they are. You know, Lamar is running the football all over the place, being Lamar again. You're seeing Odell healthy on the field. You're seeing Andrews look like Andrews. Zay Flowers has been really good. And look, some of the running backs, like Gus Edwards, made a big play there. If they can get that to travel, and Arizona, goodness knows that offensive line is bad. What do you think? You think this 8.5 is a gimme?
I too have bet the Ravens early, Joe, and I didn't feel as good betting the Ravens as I did betting the Chiefs. For me, it is less about my confidence in the Ravens repeating the sort of performance they had against the Lions than it is in betting against the Cardinals, who I think have, after the plucky start the first 3 weeks of the season, kind of reverted to what we thought they were going to be, which is basically the biggest doormat in the NFL. That was our expectation for them before the start of the season. Cardinals have lost 4 straight games by double digits, failed to cover in all 4 of those games. And the Ravens are just humming right now. So even I think if the Ravens offense were to have some hiccups in this game, they could still cover this number pretty easily because I don't see the Cardinals doing much business against the Baltimore defense.
Okay. Sam, your thoughts on this one? Baltimore had a really strong showing. Am I overrating what I saw Sunday too much?
I don't think so. I mean, the Lions were a great team and they blew the doors off them offensively. They shut the offense of the Lions down. And so I think Baltimore is easily going to go into Arizona and cover this spread. I mean, they're getting healthier on offense. They have their full set of receivers now. That I don't think they're quite as talented as they were hoping to going into the season. But as this offense starts to click, and I think we saw, sort of the first iteration of that, Lamar played at an MVP level like we've seen him play in the past. And I don't think this Cardinals defense is going to be able to slow them down whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't think the offensive line is going to slow down anybody either. Let me tell you, they are a joke. Cincinnati at San Fran. We'll see what San Fran does tonight. Christian McCaffrey is slated to play in that Monday night game. Don't forget, you can always check us out Monday nights. We're always doing 5 p.m. Eastern. Bob and I going through the best bets for Monday Night Football and Thursday Night Football. Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern too. You got the San Francisco minus 5.5. That feels about right to me. Minus 110 on DK. 45.5 is the number. The Bengals had that bye. Hopefully a little even healthier for Joe Burrow. Plus 210, and for T. Higgins too. Plus 210 for the Bengals here for the upset. I don't think the upset is not in play here, Sam. I know the 49ers on paper are that better team, but it's not always the best team that wins, the team that plays the best. So what are your thoughts here as San Francisco coming off that loss? I know we have to see what they bring tonight against Minnesota, but is there any early value before that game happens?
I don't think so. I honestly have no lean here right now. I think this number is spot on. I had San Francisco as 5.5 point favorites. So I think it's about in line what I was expecting. I mean, if you do like Cincy, I don't think this is a bad spot because San Francisco will be playing on a short week with Cincinnati coming off of their bye, but I'm guessing that's baked into the line a little bit. I'm guessing if they both have equal rest, then San Francisco is maybe 6.5 point favorites. So this is going to be a fascinating game. I'm looking forward to watching this one, but I don't have any early leans right now.
Pat, any early leans on San Fran, Cincy?
No, not really. And Sam's take was pretty much spot on. First, I saw this line. I thought it should be 6 or 6.5, but then I realized, Bengals coming off the bye, 49ers going into this game with short rest. And I guess I'm also feeling a little bit more confident in Joe Burrow's health now that he's made it through 6 games with that wounded calf and coming off a bye. So he could be pretty close to 100% for this game. No leaning either way here. I think the line's pretty spot on.
Bears go to Los Angeles to face the Chargers. Chargers are 8.5-point favorites, -110 on DK. 46.5 is the number on FanDuel, plus 350 on the money line for the Bears. Pat, look, the Bears looked really good at home against a bad opponent, but at least they dominated a bad opponent. You don't know if you're going to get Justin Fields or not in this game. Do you see anything here with Chicago, LA that's intriguing to you?
Yeah, as our colleague Andrew Erickson asked in a Slack conversation earlier this morning, should the Chargers be favored by 8.5 points against anyone in the NFL? Especially against the Bears, who have staged some unexpected uprisings this season. They beat the Washington Commanders and the Las Vegas Raiders very handily, and they just demolished the Raiders with an undrafted rookie free agent making his first NFL start at quarterback. So, man, nonetheless, I'm still pretty reluctant to bet the Bears with an undrafted rookie free agent quarterback. So I'm probably just going to lay off, and I might take the under here since the Bears defense has been surprisingly respectable lately. Like, I don't think that run defense is terrible. And we saw them sort of bottle up Josh Jacobs just this past Sunday. So this might be a little too tall of a total, but I don't really want to bet either side here.
Sam, Joe Ranieri came on the show a couple weeks ago and told us, no matter what, always bet the Chargers when they're favorites, especially in that first half, and then immediately in the second half bet against them. And that has been a pretty good practice. Is that the path of least resistance here with this contest too? Because I'm with Pat. This just feels like a lot of respect for the Chargers.
Probably. I mean, I think if this stays at 8.5, teasing the Chargers down to 2.5 is one of my favorite ways to play this game. Chicago's had a positive EPA per play in 3 of their last 4 games. They've had a positive rushing EPA per play in their last 3 games and 4 of their last 5. But the Chargers' rushing defense might be improving a little bit. They've had a rushing success rate allowed below 30% in each of the last 2 weeks against Dallas and Kansas City. Now, neither of those teams are particularly spectacular in the rushing department, but it is good to see that defense improving a little bit. So I think I just want to stick with the Chargers as a potential teaser leg for right now.
Last one here, Monday Night Football. Talk about get-right games. The Detroit Lions, -7.5 at -110 on FanDuel, will take on the Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders also having QB problems of their own. 45 is the number on Caesars, 44.5 on DK, plus 300 on the ML for Vegas. Sam, does Detroit get back on track here and hand the Vegas Raiders their lunch?
I think so. The Lions, I don't think, are nearly as bad as their performance Sunday indicates. The Ravens had 28 points before the Lions had their first down of the game. And to what we were just talking about, the Raiders just got the doors blown off of them by Tyler Bagent. So I think the Lions are going to easily be able to go back home in prime time, show up with everything, and take care of their business.
See, he's such a backup. He even called him Tyler, not Tyson. That's how little respect Sam Hoppen has for Bagent.
Whoops.
Whoops. Oh, no. Fitzy, let's close it out strong here. Your thoughts on this last contest here is Detroit Lions. It's just, look, we all expect the Lions to win, but it is a bigger number here. Any concern?
Yeah, I never need to find much of an excuse to bet against the Josh McDaniel Raiders. And with the Lions coming off this bad loss, I think they're going to be breathing fire for this game. So, yeah, I'm taking the Lions and laying the points.
As they should be breathing fire. Don't forget, make sure you get those line alerts on the BP app. Use that game notifications tool so you can set it and watch some of these lines as they move. We've talked about a lot of them today that might make some changes. Obviously, in the days ahead, you should also subscribe to the channel so you can follow all the podcasts, all the content that goes on here at Betting Pros. And if you drop a comment below, you could win that Robert Tonyan jersey. And don't forget to join our NFL contest at bettingpros.com/NFL contest. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Fitz and Sam, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.